Most Performance Max campaigns are not structured and set up in a way that they actually keep their promise of delivering maximum performance. So in this video, I will show you two setups that are not really useful and that they will definitely leave money on the table, as well as the third setup that I recommend instead, and what to keep in mind if you want to truly get the most money out of your Performance Max campaigns for your e-commerce store. So with that said, let's look at the first example, and that's probably the most common that I see, right? So in this one, an account that I've just audited last week, we see 4 different asset groups and a total ad spend of around about £6,500, 7,000 something, $8,000 or so. Not that much, but it's perfectly illustrates what I'm bringing across here in this video. So what we can see here is, as you can already imagine by the sort of blurred images right here, those asset groups are more or less all the same. They use almost all the exact same images, exact same titles, headlines and descriptions. And the only difference here is the audience, right? So in these two, there are no audience signals, but a few search themes. In this one, there's also no audience signal, but a few other ways of targeting. And then at the very top one, we have mixed targeting. Now, I totally understand the thought process behind it, right? You want to isolate and test your audiences and you want to find out which one performs best. And it technically makes sense. But the thing is, Performance Max doesn't actually target, doesn't allow you to target people. It just allows you to share ideas and use audience signals, but not cold hard targeting. Now, when we look at the performance column, right, we see that the two here at the top perform almost exactly the same, and the one that has been paused a while ago performs quite a bit worse in terms of ROAS. Now, does this mean that this is like the winning asset group, or that this is the winning asset group because it makes more and delivers more revenue? Not really, right? Most of the time, when you purely structure something by audience, sooner or later, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because what happens is, let's say Google tried that asset group first, and it basically sends a lot of traffic to that asset group, so it gets more sales initially, and then it becomes this reinforcement cycle where it just gets more and more traffic because Google found it easier to put the money into this asset group. So you will never have a fully clean test. You have no way of forcing Google to spend more money on one asset group versus the other, and this always means that if you see a very small performance difference like here, this is more or less random, and even if you see a bigger performance difference, chances are that there are better ways that you can spend your test budgets rather than on audiences. So let's look at another case that I see all the time that's kind of equally bad, right? And this is this one right here. Similar story, $10,000, almost exactly net spend, so also a pretty small campaign. ROAS of 2.3, okay, but this is a one-size-fits-all asset group for everything. So this brand here has about 10 categories, and in total, probably something like 50 subcategories, right? The products are almost all unrelated. They don't really share the same audiences. They don't really share the same assets. And in this asset group, it all comes down into one. Now, they are definitely not profitable with a 2.29. They require something like a 3.5 actually, give or take, right? So with this one-size-fits-all approach, where you basically call it like asset group 1, and that's it. That's what I see all the time, right? One PMax campaign, one asset group. In this case, there's some search theme targeting and remarketing data going on, which in case of PMax doesn't mean actual remarketing. It just means that you use this as a signal, like a lookalike audience, right? But as you can imagine, this is way too simplified now. So all these products may have different margins. They may have different, pricing levels, $1,000 products, $40 products, as in the case of that brand, it's actually the case, right? There are so many differences between products that you're telling Google, please give me a performance of, let's say, 350%, right? But you don't care about the individual product margins. You don't care about assets that might not be used that well for all of these combined. So you're doing zero relevance improvement, so to speak, and you let Google do all the heavy lifting. This is the prime example of maximum consolidation in terms of getting as much data as possible into one asset group, which has its pros, but especially if you have a very well segmented store with so many categories, that doesn't make sense. If you have just one product, let's say, you can argue about that setup, even though I would still say it makes sense to test other parts of PMax, and I will talk about that in a second, but then it can sometimes work. But if you have a diverse store and you literally advertise like 3,000 products in this asset group, that's like the other sort of example of what not to do, because you will always run into scaling issues because it's all in this huge pool. And then we have the third option, and that's an account that we actively manage, so that's not an audited one, right? And that's what we're doing here right now. As you can see, there are a ton of tests going on. And don't worry, it's not about the number of tests. I'm not saying, run as many tests as possible, look busy, right? Just do it for the sake of it. But if you look closely, what you see here is that there are a ton of different images and videos and ad copy being tested here. And this is just the 30-day data, right? 3.38, clearly profitable in this specific case. It's a health brand, so we cannot really get rid of this health and personalized advertising limitation. It's just how it is, right? You probably are familiar with that if you sell like health products, supplements, whatever. But the point is, we spent 32,000, well, above our profitability level. In terms of recent data, it's actually even improving there. But what we're doing in terms of asset group structure is we are segmenting by angles and by images and, well, asset types, right? So to give you an example, with this particular product, what we're selling is a health product that can be applied to different body parts, for example. What we're doing here is we have an asset group for the elbow, we have an asset group for the neck, we have an asset group for the knee, and for each of these asset groups, we're perfectly aligning all the ad copy, all the images, all the videos, and soon also the landing pages, because we're doing landing page tests and advertorials and all that stuff as well. And this reflects in the performance data, right? Initially, some of the older asset groups or in the past, they delivered like a 2, 2.3, 2.5. They were doing like okay, but they were, first of all, not really scalable, right? And they were performing worse in terms of ROAS. And that's sort of the dream, right? You want more revenue, and at the same time, the ROAS improves rather than just one of the two. And that's exactly what we've accomplished sort of with this setup, with this one here at the top being the undisputed king in terms of best revenue, in terms of volume, as well as really solid ROAS, right? And then, of course, we have here, for example, okay, really, really, really good ROAS, but on a smaller scale. But that's sort of the point. It's not that this asset group is necessarily the one that can be scaled to the moon. It just means that Google finds a few very, very profitable pockets and it fills them with the content from this asset group. So it would be misleading to think that you can scale this to 500 sales a month, right? And then you will keep the 5x ROAS. Sometimes you want to keep the mix because one asset group can be scaled to 8x ROAS, one to just 3, but at phenomenal volume. So it's a misconception to think that if you see a profitable asset group, now you have to try to scale it to the moon because oftentimes it's simply not possible, right? So as I said, we're targeting by like the angle, which means, as I said, for example, the body part, but also we're trying completely different asset types. Like this brand here, we have a ton of assets, like well over 1,000 total image and video assets, okay? And we are testing things like, dark background, as you can see here, lifestyle photos, graphics, illustrations, and that's another way by which you can actually test. And to give you like a better overview on this whole thing, I've done a very, very quick illustration here. Like these are the two bad ways to structure. First of all, by basically saying, okay, I structure by audience, right? So you have a PMax campaign, audience 1, audience 2, audience 3, audience 4, and the list goes on. This is simply not the best way to go about it because, as I said, audience signals are just recommendations. Then we have the second option, and that is what I've also just showed you. PMax, like one PMax campaign, one asset group, that's called asset group 1, the prime example, and you have all the products in this one thing, and it's like completely mixed, and there is no separation, there is no relevance and nothing. And then we have the good way to go about it. And there are some smaller nuanced ways, but those are the ones that I recommend the most, which is you have a PMax campaign and you either structure it by product or by angle or by asset, I should say, right? And then you have like, for example, an asset group for category 1, for category 2, category 3. If you have different categories with maybe different margin levels, different product types, and so on and so forth. Or you have angle 1, angle 2, angle 3. Remember, knee, elbow, neck, shoulder, right? In our specific case. In your case, it could be something totally different. It could be an angle focused on like price and promotions. Another angle focused on a certain, type of pain or on a certain sort of way of using the product and whatever it might be, whatever you're selling, right? But that actually gives you meaningful and oftentimes statistically significant insights into what's working and what's not. Because if you only do it that way, as I said, at some point it will just be random and a self-fulfilling prophecy. But here, if you're actually testing, let's say, different clusters of products, different images, different videos, there is a very low chance that this will be totally random or just a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I can tell you, if you do that and if you organize your PMax campaigns that way, optimize them that way, and then really sort of build up from there. That's how you can get to like $1,000 ad spend per day, 2,000, 5,000. You know, we have seen 10,000 plus per day with that setup. And that's exactly what you need if your PMax campaign is stagnating or not that profitable. And if you now say, I have no idea how to do this, right? I don't want to do this. The structure seems a bit complex or difficult to do. Then feel free to check our site right here, cartlift.co, where you can book a call with me. We sit down, look at your account, exactly sort of what to do, what's the best setup for you. No strings attached, no sort of sales call, me talking about like random stuff that are unrealistic, but only what's actually possible with your brand. So check the site out. Please subscribe to this channel for more Google Ads content for e-commerce. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, and I look forward to see you in the next video again. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.